Do-Yun Kim stared at the message on his tablet. He read it 3 times, but the words did not change. The job seemed simple enough on paper. Design a mining operation for a new sector. The pay was good, very good. But something felt wrong about it. He sat in his small apartment on Earth Station 7, drinking his morning coffee. Outside his window, ships came and went like busy insects. Some carried people, others carried goods. All of them had places to go and things to do. Unlike him, for the past 6 months, Do-Yun had been between jobs. The mining company he worked for went out of business. 3 other companies turned him down. They said he was too creative, too willing to try new things. They wanted engineers who followed the rules. The message came from something called the Galactic Mediation Service. They wanted him on a station called Concordia Prime. The job would last 3 months. Maybe longer. The pay would solve all his money problems, but why him? Do-Yun was just a regular engineer. He fixed things. He built things. He was not special. 2 days later, Do-Yun found himself on a transport ship heading toward Concordia Prime. The ship was old and slow, but it worked. During the 5-day trip, he learned more about his new job. Concordia Prime was a neutral station. 3 big alien governments used it for meetings. These 3 powers controlled most of the galaxy. They were called the Thornian Empire, the Hegemony, Trade Council, and the Keth Federation. The 3 groups found a new area of space 6 months ago. This area had special crystals that could power whole cities. Everyone wanted these crystals. Everyone claimed the area belonged to them. Nobody could agree on anything for 6 months. They had been meeting on Concordia Prime. They talked and argued and made speeches. Nothing happened. The crystals stayed in space, untouched. Meanwhile, thousands of worlds needed the energy these crystals could provide. When Do-Yun arrived at Concordia Prime, he understood why the station had that name. It was huge. The main ring could hold a small city. Ships docked at ports that stretched for miles. People from dozens of different worlds walked the corridors, but despite all the activity, something felt tense. Guards stood at every corner. Security screens flashed warnings in 15 languages. Even the air felt heavy with worry. A woman met him at the docking bay. She was human, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. Do-Yun Kim? She asked. Yes, I am Yuna Park. I work for the mediation service. Welcome to the most frustrated place in the galaxy. Yuna led him through the station. They passed shops, restaurants, and living areas. Everything looked normal, but Do-Yun noticed the details. Security cameras watched every corner. Guards checked ID cards at random. People spoke in whispers. What exactly is my job here? Do-Yun asked as they walked. You need to design a mining operation that makes everyone happy, Yuna said. The Thornians want security. The Hegemony wants efficiency. The Federation wants harmony with nature. All 3 want the same crystals from the same area of space. That sounds impossible. It is impossible. 17 committees of the smartest beings in the galaxy have tried. All of them failed. Each committee had hundreds of experts. They spent millions of credits. They used the most advanced computers in known space. They stopped at a large window that looked out into space. In the distance, Do-Yun could see 3 groups of ships. Each group stayed far away from the others. Those are the fleets, Yuna explained. The big insect-like ships belong to the Thornian Empire. The crystal ships that look like geometric shapes belong to the Hegemony. The ships that glow with soft light belong to the Keth Federation. Why are they here if the meetings are happening on the station? Insurance? Yuna said. Nobody trusts anybody. Each side wants to make sure the others do not try anything sneaky. Do-Yun studied the ships. The Thornian ships looked like they were built for war. They had thick armor and big weapons. The Hegemony ships looked like someone had turned mathematical equations into metal. Perfect angles, smooth surfaces, no wasted space. The Federation ships seemed to pulse with life, as if they were breathing. They are very different, he said. That is the problem. They think in completely different ways. What makes sense to One group sounds crazy to the others. Yuna led him to a conference room. Inside, three beings sat at a round table. Each one looked like they came from a different universe. The first being looked like a giant praying mantis, but with 6 arms instead of 4. Its green skin had a metallic shine. Its eyes were large and dark. This was Velcrus, the Thornian ambassador. The second being looked like a walking crystal. Its body was made of clear blue stone that sparkled with inner light. When it moved, it made a sound like wind chimes. This was Morvac from the hegemony. The third being was the strangest of all. It looked like a cloud of silver gas held together by invisible forces. Sometimes it had a shape like a person. Sometimes it spread out like fog. This was Zalara from the Federation. "This is Do-Young Kim," Yuna announced. "He is the engineer we requested." Velcrus clicked its mandibles together. "Another human? We have tried 17 different approaches. What makes you think this one will work?" Morvac's crystal body flashed with mathematical symbols. "The probability of success decreases with each failed attempt. Logic suggests we are wasting time." Zilara's gaseous form shifted and swirled. The cosmic harmony grows more disturbed with each passing day. "These crystals call out for proper stewardship." Do-Yun sat down at the table. He felt very small next to these powerful beings. But he had learned something important during his years as an engineer. Sometimes the biggest problems had the simplest solutions. "Can you tell me about these crystals?" he asked. For the next 2 hours, the three ambassadors explained the situation. The crystals were found in an area called the Kalos sector. They contained more energy than anything known to science. 1. Crystal the size of a fist could power a space station for a year, but mining them was complex. The crystals grew in delicate formations. They were sensitive to vibration, heat, and electromagnetic fields. Remove them wrong, and they would shatter into useless dust. The Thornians wanted to build a fortress around the area. They would mine the crystals slowly and carefully, making sure no enemies could steal them. Security was everything. The hegemony wanted to use the most efficient methods possible. They had calculated the perfect mining rate, the ideal equipment, and the optimal shipping routes. Mathematics was everything. The Federation wanted to mine the crystals without disturbing the natural balance of space in that area. They believed the crystals were part of a larger cosmic pattern. Harmony was everything. Each approach made sense by itself. But they could not work together. "Has anyone actually visited this sector?" Do-Yun asked. The three ambassadors looked at each other. "Of course not," Velcrus said. "It is too dangerous without proper security." "Sending scouts would be inefficient," Morvac added. "We have all the data we need from long-range sensors." "Direct observation would disturb the natural state," Zilara concluded. "Remote sensing preserves the cosmic balance." Do-Yun leaned back in his chair. 17 committees of experts had failed to solve this problem. All of them had tried to work with theories and numbers and rules, but none of them had actually looked at the crystals. That night, in his temporary quarters, Do-Yun spread out all the sensor data on his desk. He studied the images and measurements until his eyes hurt. Slowly, he began to see something that the experts had missed. The three groups were not trying to solve the same problem. They were trying to solve 3 different problems that happened to involve the same crystals, and maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what he needed to solve this puzzle. Do-Yun woke up early the next morning with an idea. While the three ambassadors continued their formal meetings, he decided to do something different. He would talk to the workers. Every station needed maintenance. Pipes leaked, computers broke, and systems needed upgrades. The people who fixed these things came from all 3 species. They worked together every day just to keep the station running. Do-Yun found the maintenance section in the lower levels of the station. The area was noisy and busy. Sparks flew from welding torches. Computer screens showed system diagrams. Workers hurried back and forth carrying tools and parts. A Thornian engineer named Kix was fixing a water recycling unit. His 6 arms moved with perfect coordination. Each hand held a different tool. He worked fast but carefully, like a surgeon. "Excuse me," Do-yeon said. "I am new here. Can you tell me how things work down here?" Kix looked up from his work. His large, dark eyes studied Do-yeon for a moment. "You are the human they brought in to solve the crystal problem. News travels fast. Everything travels fast on a space station. Gossip moves faster than air through the vents." Kix put down his tools. "You want to know how we work?" "Come with me." Kix led Do-yeon through the maintenance area. In one corner, a hegemony technician named Ball was calculating power distribution. Her crystal body flashed with numbers and equations. She could process data faster than any computer Do-yeon had ever seen. "Ball handles all our energy calculations," Kix explained. "She can balance the power grid for the entire station in her head. Takes her maybe 30 seconds. In another area, a Federation engineer named Rin was monitoring the air quality systems. His gaseous form flowed through the ventilation ducts, checking for problems that sensors might miss. When he found a small leak, he sealed it with part of his own energy. "Rin keeps us breathing," Kix said. "He can sense things in the air that our instruments cannot detect. Chemical imbalances, pressure changes, contamination. He feels it all." Do-yeon watched the three beings work. Each one was amazing at their specialty, but more importantly, they helped each other without thinking about it. When Ball needed to reach a high control panel, Kix lifted her up with two of his arms. When Kix needed to calculate stress loads on a beam, Ball ran the numbers instantly. When Rin found an air pocket that might cause pressure problems, both Kix and Ball helped him fix it. "How long have you worked together?" Do-yeon asked. 2 years. Kix replied. "At first, we did not understand each other. Ball thought we were too slow. Rin thought we were too forceful. I thought they were both unpredictable. What changed? We had an emergency. Major power failure in Section 12. Life support was failing. We had 20 minutes to fix it or 200 people would die." Ball's crystal body chimed in harmony. "No time for proper procedures. No time for careful planning. No time for perfect solutions." Rin's voice whispered from the air around them. "We had to trust each other. No choice? Work together or watch people die?" "And it worked?" Do-yeon asked. "Better than worked," Kix said. "We fixed the problem in 8 minutes. Faster than any of us could have done alone. Much faster." Do-yeon spent the rest of the morning with the maintenance crew. He watched them solve problem after problem. Each challenge required different skills. Kix provided strength and precision. Ball provided calculation and analysis. Rin provided sensing and adaptation. None of them could do everything. But together, they could do anything. That afternoon, Yuna Park found Do-yeon in the maintenance section. She looked surprised to see him there. "The ambassadors are asking for you," she said. "They want to know what progress you have made." "Tell them I am studying the problem," Do-yeon replied. "Down here?" "The answer is not in the meeting rooms upstairs. It is down here with the people who actually make things work." Yuna sat down on a tool crate. "What have you learned?" Do-yeon pointed to where Kix, Ball, and Rin were installing a new air filter. They moved like dancers, each one knowing exactly when to act and when to wait. "I learned that the three species are not enemies. They are puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly. But the ambassadors hate each other. The ambassadors represent governments. Governments think about power and territory and control. These workers think about getting the job done." That evening, Do-yeon attended another formal meeting. The three ambassadors sat at their table, arguing about the same things they had argued about for 6 months. "The Thornian Empire will not accept any mining operation that lacks proper security," Velcris declared. "Security measures reduce efficiency by 37%, Morvik calculated. This is unacceptable waste. All of your proposals disturb the natural harmony," Zilara whispered. "The crystals cry out against such violence." Do-yeon listened to them talk in circles. Each ambassador spoke as if their needs were the only ones that mattered. They used big words and complex ideas. They made everything sound impossible, but down in maintenance, Kix and Ball and Rin made impossible things happen every day. "What? If we approach this differently?" Do-Yan interrupted. The three ambassadors stopped arguing and looked at him. What if instead of trying to choose between security, efficiency, and harmony, we found a way to have all three? Velcris clicked his mandibles. Impossible. Security requires defensive measures that reduce efficiency. Efficiency requires rapid extraction that disrupts harmony, Morvac added. Harmony requires gentle methods that compromise security, Zilara concluded. That is what I thought too, Do-Yan said. Until I spent time with your people downstairs. He told them about Kix, Ball, and Rin, how they had different strengths, how they helped each other, how they solved problems faster together than any of them could alone. Maintenance workers are not ambassadors, Velcris said dismissively. No, Do-Yan agreed. They are better. They actually fix things. The room went silent. Do-Yan had just insulted three of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Yuna looked worried. The ambassadors looked angry, but Do-Yan continued. What if we designed a mining operation the way your maintenance crews work? Each species doing what they do best, supporting the others. Explain, Morvac demanded. Do-Yan stood up and walked to the large display screen. He called up the sensor data from the Kalo sector. Thornian engineering is perfect for building secure structures. Hegemony mathematics can optimize every process. Federation energy work can keep everything in harmony. He pointed to different areas of the crystal formations. What if we built a Thornian security perimeter around the entire sector? Not to keep others out, but to protect the delicate crystals during mining. Inside that perimeter, we use hegemony calculations to design the most efficient extraction methods. And we let Federation energy specialists guide the actual removal to maintain cosmic balance. The three ambassadors stared at the display. For the first time in 6 months, none of them immediately said it was impossible. Each species gets what they need most, Do-Yan continued. The Thornians get absolute security. The hegemony gets maximum efficiency. The Federation gets perfect harmony. And everyone gets crystals. Velcris leaned forward. The logistics would be extremely complex. The coordination requirements are beyond current protocols, Morvac calculated. The energy patterns would need constant adjustment, Zilara observed, but none of them said no. That night, Do-Yan sat in his quarters and smiled. For the first time since arriving at Concordia Prime, he felt like he might actually solve this puzzle. The answer was not to choose between the three approaches. The answer was to combine them, just like Kix, Ball, and Rin did every day in the maintenance section. 3 days later, Do-Yan presented his detailed plan to the ambassadors. He had worked 20 hours a day, creating blueprints, calculating resource needs, and designing coordination protocols. The plan covered everything from security systems to energy harmonics. He stood before the three ambassadors with confidence. His solution was good. No, it was brilliant. It gave everyone what they wanted while solving the crystal mining problem. Velcris studied the plans for exactly 12 minutes. Then he pushed them away. This is dangerously naive, the Thornian ambassador declared. You propose to integrate Thornian security systems with alien technology. Our defense protocols must remain secret. Sharing them violates every military principle we hold sacred. Morvac's crystal body flashed with rapid calculations. The plan requires unprecedented cooperation between species with different mathematical frameworks. The probability of successful implementation is 0.0034%. This is mathematically impossible. Zilara's gaseous form swirled with agitation. You ask us to merge our energy harmonics with mechanical systems and rigid structures? This would create cosmic discord on a massive scale. The universe itself would resist such violation of natural order. Do-Yan felt his heart sink. But it works. I have run simulations. The maintenance crews prove that cooperation between your species, maintenance workers are not governments, Velcris interrupted. They do not understand the complexities of interstellar politics. Politics? Do-Yan asked. What does politics have to do with mining crystals? The three ambassadors exchanged looks. For a moment, Do-Yan saw something he had not noticed before: fear. Young human, Velcris said slowly, you do not understand what you are asking. For thousands of years, our three civilizations have existed in careful balance. We compete, yes, but we also maintain distance. Your plan would require us to share our deepest secrets, to trust each other completely, Morvik added. To blend our very essences, Zilara whispered. And if we do this, Velcris continued, and something goes wrong, the entire galaxy could fall into chaos. Wars that would make past conflicts look like children's games. Do-Yun stared at them. So you would rather let thousands of worlds go without energy than take a risk? Some risks are too great, Zilara said softly. That night, Do-Yun sat in the station's observation lounge, staring out at the three fleets hanging in space. Yuna found him there at midnight. The ambassadors told me about your presentation, she sighed, sitting down beside him. 6 months they have been talking, 6 months of meetings and speeches and formal negotiations. And for what, so they can keep being afraid of each other? Fear is powerful, Yuna said, especially when you are responsible for billions of lives. But people are dying right now, Do-Yun said angrily. I have read the reports. 17 worlds are facing energy crises. Medical equipment shutting down, life support systems failing, transport ships stranded in space. All because 3 governments are too scared to work together. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? Do-Yun looked at her. Something stupid. The next morning, Do-Yun went to the maintenance section. He found Kix's ball and Rin working on a broken gravity generator. I need your help, he said. What kind of help? Kix asked suspiciously. The kind that might get us all in trouble. Do-Yun explained his plan. Not the official one he had presented to the ambassadors, a smaller version, a test. There is a cargo bay in Section 15 that nobody uses, he said. It has some old mining equipment that was left behind by traders. I want to build a working model of my crystal extraction system. With what materials? Ball calculated quickly. You would need Thornian security components, hegemony optimization processors, and Federation energy harmonizers. That is why I need you 3. You know where everything is on this station. You know how to get things without asking too many questions. Rin's gaseous form rippled with concern. This would violate several station regulations, and probably a few interstellar laws, Kix added. Definitely, Do-Yun agreed. But it would also prove that my plan works. The 3 maintenance workers looked at each other. They communicated in ways Do-Yun could not understand. Kix's antenna twitched in complex patterns. Bol's crystal body pulsed with mathematical sequences. Rin's gaseous form shifted through different colors. Finally, Kix spoke. We will need security coverage. I know someone who can help with that. Do-Yun found Taiho Lee in the station's security office. Taiho was a human security officer who had been assigned to protect Do-Yun during his stay. He was young, maybe 30 years old, with serious eyes and quick reflexes. You want me to help you break station regulations? Taiho asked after hearing. The plan. I want you to help me save lives. Taiho studied him carefully. If we get caught, I lose my job. If we do not try, people die. How many people are we talking about? Do-Yun showed him the energy crisis reports. 17 worlds. 43 billion people. Numbers that were too big to really understand, but real enough to matter. Taiho sighed. What do you need? For the next week, they worked in secret. Kix borrowed Thornian security components from the embassy's spare parts inventory. Ball requisitioned hegemony optimization processors from the Trade Council's computers. Rin collected Federation energy harmonizers from the meditation gardens. Taiho made sure the security cameras in Section 15 had convenient malfunctions. He also made sure that certain patrol routes were adjusted to avoid the cargo bay during specific hours. Meanwhile, Do-Yun designed and built. He had never worked with alien technology before, but the principles were the same as human engineering. Find out what each part does, figure out how they connect. Make them work together. The hardest part was translation. Thornian security systems. Use biochemical interfaces. Hegemony processors communicated in pure mathematics. Federation harmonizers responded to emotional wavelengths, but Do-Yun was an engineer. Engineers solve problems. They find ways to make incompatible things work together. On the 7th day, they were ready for the first test. The model was small, about the size of a desk. It could not mine real crystals, but it could simulate the process using synthetic materials. If it worked, it would prove that his plan was possible. Kix activated the Thornian security perimeter. A shimmering energy field surrounded the test area. Nothing could get in or out without permission. Ball started the hegemony optimization systems. Mathematical equations flowed across displays, calculating the most efficient way to extract materials. Rin began the Federation harmonization process. Gentle energy waves pulsed through the security field, keeping everything in balance. And then Do-Yun turned on the extraction beam. For a moment, nothing happened. The three alien technologies hummed and pulsed and calculated, each doing its own job. Then something beautiful occurred. The systems began to synchronize. The Thornian security field started pulsing in rhythm with the Federation energy waves. The hegemony calculations began incorporating data from both the security sensors and the harmony monitors, the extraction beam, guided by all three systems. Working together, removed the synthetic crystals with perfect precision. No waste, no damage, no disruption. The efficiency rating was 30% higher than any single species approach. The energy consumption was 40% lower. The harmony index remained in perfect balance. "It works," Kix whispered, his voice full of wonder. "The mathematics are perfect," Ball chimed. "The cosmic balance is undisturbed," Rin added. Do-Yun grinned. "It works," but their celebration was short-lived. The cargo bay doors suddenly opened with a hiss. Station security officers poured in, followed by representatives from all three embassies. Velcrus looked at the test equipment with his large dark eyes. "Explain this." Morvac's crystal body flashed with angry red calculations. "You have violated 17 station regulations." Zilara's gaseous form swirled with disapproval. "You have created unauthorized energy disruptions." Taiho stepped forward. "I take full responsibility. This was my operation." "No," Do-Yun said. "This was mine." He walked over to the still-running test equipment. The three alien systems continued to work in perfect harmony, extracting synthetic crystals with impossible efficiency. "Look at it," he said to the ambassadors. "Look at what your people can do when they work together." The three ambassadors stared at the machine. They could not deny what they were seeing. The test results were undeniable. "This proves nothing," Velcrus said finally. "A small model is not the same as a full-scale operation. The complexity increases exponentially," Morvac calculated. "Large-scale implementation would face problems this model does not address. The cosmic implications of such expansion would be enormous," Zilara warned, but Do-Yun saw something in their eyes. They were not angry anymore. They were afraid. Not of his plan failing, but of it succeeding. "Turn it off," Velcrus ordered. "Dismantle the equipment," Morvac demanded. "Restore the natural energy balance," Zilara insisted. Do-Yun looked at Kix, Ball, and Rin. The three maintenance workers stood beside their creation with pride. They had built something amazing together. "No," Do-Yun said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at him. "No," he repeated, louder this time. "I will not turn it off. Not until you give me one good reason why this should not work." The cargo bay fell, silent except for the gentle humming of the three alien systems working in perfect harmony. Within hours, news of the unauthorized test spread through the station like fire. By morning, it had reached the highest levels of all three governments. By afternoon, everything changed. Du Haiyan sat in a detention cell, watching news reports on a small screen. The headlines made his blood run cold. Thornian fleet moves to combat readiness. Hegemony Council declares security breach. Federation warns of cosmic disruption. Each government assumed the worst. The Thornians thought the hegemony had stolen their security secrets. The hegemony thought the Federation had corrupted their calculations. The Federation thought the Thornians had violated cosmic harmony. Nobody believed it was just one Human engineer trying to solve a problem. The three fleets in space began moving closer to the station. Weapons systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. For the first time in 50 years, the galaxy stood on the edge of war. Yuna visited Do-Yun in his cell at noon. The ambassadors are meeting in emergency session, she said. They are talking about ending the negotiations and returning to their homeworlds. What about the crystals? What about them? If there is a war, nobody will care about energy crystals. There will be bigger problems. Do-Yun slammed his hand against the cell wall. This is insane. All I did was prove that cooperation works. You proved that cooperation is possible, Yuna corrected. That terrifies them more than anything else. Why? Because if cooperation is possible, then all their reasons for staying separate are just excuses. Their whole way of life is built on the idea that their species cannot work together. That evening, Taiho came to see him. The security officer looked tired and worried. I have been monitoring communications, he said quietly. The situation is getting worse. Some military commanders on all sides are pushing for preemptive strikes. How long before shooting starts? Maybe 48 hours, maybe less? Do-Yun sat on his narrow bunk and put his head in his hands. Everything had gone wrong. He had tried to solve one problem and created a much bigger one. There is something else, Taiho said. The maintenance workers are refusing to dismantle your test. Equipment, Do-Yun looked up. What? Kix, Ball, and Rin, the ambassadors ordered them to take apart the machine and destroy all the data. They said no. They will get in serious trouble. They already are. But they are not alone. Other maintenance workers from all three species have joined them. They are calling it a work strike. They say they will not destroy something that proves cooperation is possible. Do-Yun felt a spark of hope. How many workers? Started with 3, now it is 30, growing every hour. The next morning, Velcris came to see Do-Yun personally. The Thornian ambassador looked tired and angry. Your actions have created a crisis. He said, 3 governments are preparing for war because of your illegal experiment. My experiment proved that war is not necessary. Your experiment proved that you do not understand the consequences of your actions. Velcris leaned forward. Do you know what happens when governments lose control? When old agreements break down, when fear replaces order, people find better ways to live? People die, Velcris said harshly. Billions of people die. I have seen it before. Wars that last for centuries, worlds turn to ash. Entire species extinct. Do-Yun met his gaze. I have seen something different. I have seen your people work together to save lives. Every day on this station, Thornians and Hegemony and Federation citizens cooperate to keep everyone breathing, everyone fed, everyone safe. That is different. How? Those are individuals. Governments must think about entire civilizations. Maybe that is the problem. Velcris studied him for a long moment. What do you mean? Maybe governments think too much about control and not enough about solutions. That afternoon, the situation got worse. Rin, the Federation engineer, had been arrested for refusing to shut down the test equipment. When Kix and Ball tried to protect him, they were arrested too, within an hour. Every maintenance worker on the station had stopped working. Life support systems began failing. Food processors shut down. Communication networks went offline. The station itself was dying. The ambassadors called an emergency meeting. They needed the workers to return to their jobs, but the workers refused until their 3 colleagues were released. This is mutiny, Velcris declared. This is chaos, Morvik calculated. This is cosmic disruption, Zilara whispered. Du-Hyan watched the crisis unfold from his cell. Through his small window, he could see the 3 fleets moving even closer. Weapons were now aimed directly at the station. That evening, Taiho came to him with an unexpected offer. The station commander wants to see you, he said. He thinks you might be the only person who can end this peacefully. What does he want me to do? Talk to the workers. Convince them to go back to their jobs. And betray everything they are fighting for? Or find another solution? The station commander was an elderly human named Park Jin-hee. She had run Concordia Prime for 15 years, through dozens of crises, but nothing like this. In 24 hours, the three fleets will assume this station has been compromised, she said. They will destroy it to prevent their secrets from falling into enemy hands. 20,000 people will die. What do you want me to do? End this however you can. She led him to the communication center. Banks of screens showed the situation across the galaxy. News reports spoke of fleet movements and diplomatic protests. Stock markets crashed, trade routes shut down. The galaxy was holding its breath. You have access to every communication system in known space, Commander Park said. What are you going to do with it? Do-Yun looked at the screens. At the fleets. Preparing for war, at the workers who believed in his vision. At the governments too afraid to change. He thought about Kix, Ball, and Rin in their cells. About maintenance workers across the station refusing to give up hope. About billions of people who needed energy crystals but might die in a war instead. I'm going to show them the truth, he said. Do-Yun activated the emergency broadcast system. His message would reach every ship in the three fleets, every government building in the galaxy, every news network in known space. My name is Do-Yun Kim, he began. I am the human engineer who started this crisis. I want to show you something. He called up the test footage from Cargo Bay 15. The three alien technologies working in perfect harmony. Thornian security systems protecting delicate extraction processes. Hegemony calculations optimizing every movement. Federation energy waves maintaining cosmic balance. This is what your people can do together, he said. Not your governments. Not your ambassadors, your people. Engineers and technicians and workers who care more about solving problems than maintaining control. He showed efficiency ratings 30% higher than any single species approach. Energy consumption 40% lower. Perfect harmony maintained throughout the process. For 6 months, your leaders have told you this is impossible? But it is not impossible. It is happening right now. In Cargo Bay 15 of this station, your own people built it. Together. The broadcast reached 3 billion people across the galaxy. Military commanders on warships, workers in factories, citizens in their homes. Everyone could see the same thing, proof that cooperation worked. The choice is yours, Do-Yun concluded. You can destroy this station and everything it represents. You can go to war over fear and old habits. Or you can do something that has never been done before. You can choose to work together. He ended the broadcast and sat back in his chair. Commander Park stared at him with a mixture of admiration and horror. Do you realize what you just did? She asked. I told the truth. You just bypassed every government in the galaxy. You spoke directly to their people. Some will call that treason. Some will call it hope. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The fleets remained in position. The workers stayed on strike. The governments held emergency sessions behind closed doors. Then, at exactly midnight station time, something unexpected occurred. A single ship detached itself from the Thornian fleet. It was not a military vessel. It was a transport ship carrying engineers and construction workers. The ship requested permission to dock at Concordia Prime. This is transport vessel Corthax, the captain announced. We have 500 volunteers who want to see this impossible machine for themselves. Within an hour, 2 more ships had broken away from the Hegemony fleet, then 3 from the Federation, all of them carrying engineers, scientists, and workers who had seen the broadcast. The ambassadors demanded that the ships return to the fleets, but the captains refused. They wanted to see proof that cooperation was possible. By dawn, 30 ships had docked at Concordia Prime. Their crews joined the maintenance workers in Cargo Bay 15, studying the test equipment and learning how 3 alien technologies could work as one. The war fleets still hung in space, weapons ready. The government still demanded the destruction of the test equipment. But their own people had made a different choice. They chose to believe in something better. 1 week after the broadcast, Concordia Prime had become the most important place in the galaxy. Engineers, scientists, and workers from hundreds of worlds crowded the station. They all wanted to see the impossible machine that proved cooperation could work. Do-yeon stood in Cargo Bay 15, watching a group of young Thornian engineers examine the test equipment. Their eyes shone with excitement as they traced the connections between Thornian security systems and alien technology. "How did you know it would work?" one of them asked. "I did not," Do-yeon admitted. "I just knew it had to work. Too many people needed it to fail." Nearby, a team of hegemony mathematicians worked with Federation energy specialists to improve the design. They had discovered 17 ways to make the system more efficient while keeping it in perfect harmony, but the real breakthrough was not technical. It was social. For the first time in galactic history, beings from different species were learning to think like each other. Thornians were discovering the beauty of mathematical precision. Hegemony citizens were appreciating the importance of emotional balance. Federation members were understanding the value of practical security. The ambassadors watched these developments with growing alarm. "This is getting out of control," Valkyrs complained during an emergency meeting. "Our people are sharing military secrets with potential enemies. The mathematical frameworks we developed over centuries are being freely distributed," Morva calculated. "This represents a loss of competitive advantage. The cosmic harmony we have maintained for generations is being disrupted by mechanical thinking." Zilara worried. Commander Park looked at the three ambassadors with tired eyes. "Your people are happy. For the first time in decades, they believe the future can be better than the past. And you call this a problem?" "Change is dangerous," Valkyrs insisted. "Stability requires distance between species. But your people do not want distance anymore," Do-yeon said. He had been released from detention when the crisis shifted from potential war to potential peace. "They want to work together. Individual desires cannot override governmental responsibility," Morvac replied. "Why not?" Do-yeon asked. "Who do governments serve if not their people?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. For thousands of years, the three civilizations had been ruled by the idea that species were too different to cooperate. But that idea was crumbling before their eyes. Yuna had been working with communication specialists from all three species. They were developing new translation protocols that went beyond language to include cultural concepts and emotional frameworks. "The problem is not that we cannot understand each other," she explained to Do-yeon. "The problem is that we have never tried to understand each other." She showed him examples of the translation work. When a Thornian talked about security, they meant protection of the community. When a hegemony citizen talked about efficiency, they meant respect for resources. When a Federation member talked about harmony, they meant balance between all living things. "They want the same things," Do-yeon realized. "They just use different words and different methods." "Exactly. And humans seem to be naturally good at bridging those differences." It was true. Across the station, human engineers were helping alien specialists understand each other. Humans could think like Thornians when security was important, like hegemony. Citizens when calculations mattered. And like Federation members when balance was needed, they were universal translators. Not just of language, but of thought itself. Taiho had been working on a different problem: how to maintain security while enabling cooperation. The old model assumed that sharing information was dangerous. But the new reality required unprecedented openness. "We need security frameworks that protect people instead of secrets," he explained to a mixed group of security specialists. "The goal is not to keep information from our allies. The goal is to make sure bad actors cannot use our cooperation against us." It was a revolutionary idea. Instead of hiding from each other, the three species could stand together against common threats: pirates, rogue governments, natural disasters. Problems that had plagued individual species for centuries could be solved by combined efforts. Meanwhile, the test equipment in Cargo Bay 15 had evolved far beyond Do-yeon's original design. Multi-species teams had improved every component. The efficiency was now 60% higher than single-species approaches. The energy consumption was 70% lower, and the harmony index remained perfect. We are ready for a real test, Kix announced during a planning meeting. A full-scale mining operation in the Kilo sector. The governments will never approve it, Ball calculated. Then we do not ask for approval, Rin whispered. We demonstrate success and let results speak for themselves. But Do-Yun shook his head. That approach caused enough problems already. This time we do it right. What do you mean? Yuna asked. We make this so appealing that the governments cannot say no. Do-Yun had learned something important during his weeks on Concordia Prime. Governments were not evil. They were afraid. They had survived for thousands of years by being careful, by avoiding risks, by maintaining control, but fear could be overcome by hope. Risk could be managed by preparation, and control could be shared without being lost. We offer them everything they want, he said. Security, efficiency, and harmony. But we also offer them something they never expected, a way to become heroes instead of obstacles. The plan he developed was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of asking the three governments to trust each other, he asked them to trust the future they could build together, the Kalos sector. Mining operation would be managed by a new organization, the Interspecies Cooperation Initiative. Each government would contribute their best people and technologies. But the project would be led by humans who had proven their ability to bridge differences between species. Humans become the neutral ground, Do-Yun explained to the ambassadors. We do not favor any species because we understand all species. We help you work together without forcing you to give up what makes you unique. Velcris considered this carefully. The Thornian Empire would maintain full control over security protocols? Absolutely. But those protocols would protect a joint operation instead of just Thornian interests. Morvac's crystal body flashed with calculations. The hegemony would retain optimization authority over all technical processes? Of course. But those optimizations would serve all three species instead of just one. Zilara's gaseous form swirled thoughtfully. The Federation would guide energy harmonization throughout the operation? Without question. But that harmony would benefit everyone involved. For the first time in months, the three ambassadors looked hopeful instead of worried. There would need to be safeguards, Velcris said. Extensive oversight protocols, Morvac added. Continuous monitoring of cosmic balance, Zilara concluded. All of that can be arranged, Do-Yun agreed. But we start small, one mining platform. One team of volunteers, proof of concept before full implementation. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Lawyers and analysts from all three governments worked to create frameworks that had never existed before, treaties that enabled cooperation instead of preventing conflict. Agreements that shared power instead of hoarding it. Yuna coordinated the communication efforts, making sure every species understood not just what was being decided, but why it mattered. Taiho designed security protocols that protected everyone, while trusting everyone, and Do-Yun worked with engineering teams to refine the mining technology until it was better than anything any single species had ever imagined. The breakthrough came when they realized they were not just solving the crystal mining problem. They were creating a new model for galactic civilization. This changes everything, Commander Park observed as she watched the final treaty signing ceremony. If this works, species wars become obsolete. If this works, Do-Yun replied, the galaxy becomes a place where differences make us stronger instead of weaker. The ceremony took place in the main conference hall of Concordia Prime. Representatives from all three governments signed agreements that would have been impossible to imagine 6 months earlier, but the real celebration happened in Cargo Bay 15, where the original test equipment still hummed with perfect harmony. Kix, Ball, and Rin stood together with hundreds of their colleagues, watching as their simple cooperation had transformed the entire galaxy. We did it, Kix said quietly. We proved it was possible, Ball calculated. We changed the cosmic order itself, Rin whispered and in the crowd of celebrating engineers and scientists and workers, Do-Yun smiled. They had not just solved an impossible problem. They had discovered that nothing was really impossible when people worked together. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months later, Do-yeon stood on the observation deck of mining platform Alpha, watching the most beautiful sight in the galaxy. Ships from 3 different civilizations worked together in perfect coordination, extracting energy crystals from the Kilo sector with impossible efficiency. Thornian security vessels patrolled the perimeter, their biomechanical hulls glowing with protective energy fields. They moved in formations that had been refined through thousands of years of military tradition, but now they protected cooperation instead of conquest. Hegemony processing ships floated near the crystal formations, their geometric hulls pulsing with mathematical calculations. Every movement was precisely planned, every action optimized for maximum efficiency. But their calculations now included variables they had never considered before: harmony, community, and hope. Federation Harmony vessels drifted through the mining area like graceful dancers, their translucent forms adjusting energy flows to maintain perfect cosmic balance. They sang in frequencies that human ears could not hear, melodies that kept the delicate crystals stable during extraction, and coordinating it all were human ships. Small and simple compared to the alien vessels, but essential to the operation. Humans had become the translators, the mediators, the bridge builders who made cooperation possible. The efficiency ratings are still climbing, Yuna reported as she joined Do-yeon at the observation window. We are now producing crystals at rates 300% higher than any single species operation. Energy consumption is down by 80%, Taiho added, reading from his security tablet. And the harmony index has remained perfect. For 60 consecutive days? Do-yeon smiled as he watched a Thornian security ship help a hegemony processor navigate through a particularly complex crystal formation. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been impossible. Now it happened every day without anyone thinking about it. Any word from the expansion projects? He asked. 14 new operations are coming online this month, Yuna replied. The waiting list for human mediation teams is now over 2 years long. It was true. What had started as a single mining platform had become a galactic transformation. Worlds that had been enemies for centuries were now working together on joint projects. Trade routes that had been protected by military escorts now operated through cooperative security agreements. The change had not been easy. There were still those who preferred the old ways, who thought cooperation was weakness and diversity was danger. But they were becoming fewer every day as the benefits of working together became impossible to ignore. Incoming transmission from Earth, Taiho announced. It is Admiral Chun from Starfleet Command. Do-yeon accepted the call. Admiral Chun's weathered face appeared on the communication screen, smiling with pride. Congratulations, Engineer Kim, the Admiral said. The Galactic Cooperation Council has officially approved the expansion of human mediation services to 37 additional sectors. That is wonderful news, Admiral. More importantly, the 3 major powers have signed the Concordia Accords. They are restructuring their entire relationship around cooperative development rather than territorial competition. Do-yeon felt a surge of satisfaction. The Concordia Accords were named after the station where everything had started. They established formal frameworks for interspecies cooperation on everything from scientific research to disaster relief. There is something else, Admiral Chun continued. The University of Earth wants to establish a new degree program, Interspecies Communication and Mediation. They want you to help design the curriculum. Me? I am just an engineer. You are the engineer. Who changed the galaxy? There is a difference. After the call ended, Do-yeon walked through the corridors of mining platform Alpha. The station had become a symbol of what was possible when species worked together. Thornian biotechnology provided the life support systems. Hegemony mathematics optimized every operational process. Federation energy harmonics kept everything in perfect balance, and humans coordinated it all, translating not just between languages but between entire ways of thinking. In the engineering section, he found Kix working alongside a young human technician named Sola. They were upgrading the crystal extraction systems, combining Thornian precision with human adaptability. The new resonance patterns are working perfectly, Kix reported. Sola suggested modifications to our biomechanical interfaces that increased efficiency by 12%. I just looked at the problem differently, Sola said modestly. Sometimes, an outside perspective helps. It was a perfect example of what made humans valuable to the galaxy. They were not the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced species, but they had a unique ability to see connections that others missed, to find common ground between different ways of thinking. In the mathematics section, Ball was teaching a group of human students how to process multidimensional calculations. Her crystal body flashed with complex equations as she explained concepts that human minds could barely comprehend. The key is not to think in linear sequences, she was saying. Mathematical truth exists in patterns that transcend single dimensions. 1. Of the students, a young woman named Hannah raised her hand. What if we approached it like music instead of mathematics? Each equation as a note in a larger symphony? Ball's crystal form brightened with interest. Explain this concept of musical mathematics. As Hannah began explaining her idea, Do-yeon saw something remarkable happen. Ball's rigid mathematical thinking began to incorporate creative elements it had never considered before. And Hannah's intuitive understanding gained the precision that only mathematical training could provide. They were learning from each other, growing together, becoming something neither could achieve alone. In the Energy Harmonization Center, Rin was working with a human meditation specialist named June to develop new techniques for maintaining cosmic balance during large-scale operations. Human emotional patterns create unexpected resonances, Rin observed, his gaseous form shifting through colors that represented different energy frequencies. Your species adds variables to the harmony equation that we never predicted. Maybe that is good, June suggested. Maybe the universe needs a little unpredictability to stay healthy. An interesting philosophy. We have always sought perfect order, but perhaps perfect order without growth is actually stagnation. Do-yeon continued his tour, visiting every section of the platform. Everywhere he looked, he saw the same thing. Beings from different species learning to think together, work together, dream together. That evening, he attended the weekly coordination meeting in the main conference room. Representatives from all three species gathered to discuss progress, problems, and plans for the future. Valkyris had been assigned as the permanent Thornian liaison to the project. Over the months, his rigid military bearing had softened as he learned to value cooperation over control. Security status remains optimal, he reported. No hostile incursions, no equipment failures, no safety violations. The joint protection protocols are proving extremely effective. Morvok served as the Hegemony Efficiency Coordinator. Her mathematical precision had expanded to include variables like morale and creativity that no hegemony calculation had ever considered important. Production efficiency continues to exceed all projections, she announced. The integration of organic and mechanical systems creates mathematical relationships that are beautiful. It was the first time Do-yeon had ever heard a hegemony citizen use that word. Zilara coordinated Federation harmony efforts. Her understanding of cosmic balance had grown to include the idea that change and growth were necessary parts of natural order. The energy patterns remain in perfect harmony, she reported. But it is a dynamic harmony, constantly evolving and improving. The universe itself seems to approve of our cooperation. As the meeting concluded, Do-yeon found himself thinking about the journey that had brought them all to this point. It had started with an impossible problem, mining crystals that three species all wanted, but none could extract alone. But the real problem had been deeper than mining. It had been the assumption that differences made cooperation impossible, that diversity was weakness instead of strength. What are you thinking about? Yuna asked as they walked back to their quarters. I am thinking about how much has changed, Do-yeon replied. 6 months ago, these three species were ready to go to war. Now they are planning to explore new galaxies together. And it all started with one human who refused to accept that something was impossible. It started with maintenance workers, Who showed me that cooperation was already happening, Do-Yun corrected. I just helped everyone else see what was already there. The next morning, Do-Yun received a message that made him smile. It was from a young engineer on a distant world, asking for advice about an impossible problem involving 5 different species. Who could not agree on how to build a new space station? As he began composing his reply, Do-Yun looked out at the mining operation where Thornian, Hegemony, and Federation ships worked together in perfect harmony. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. The word impossible usually just meant nobody has tried the right approach yet. He started typing. The first step is to talk to the maintenance workers. They probably already know how to make it work.